Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll be going to the verse. Guru Suparna Bhujayor Adishobhamanau Ojo Nidhi Adasiga Kusuma Bhavasau Vyalam Vipidavara Vasasi Vartamana Kanchi Kalapa Parirambi Nidamba Bimbam Guru Suparna Bhujayor Adishobhamanau Ojo Nidhi Adasiga Kusuma Bhavasau Vyalam Vipidavara Vasasi Vartamana Kanchi Kalapa Parirambi Nidamba Bimbam Guru Suparna Bhujayor Adishobhamanau Ojo Nidyadasiga Kusuma Bhavasau Vyalam Vipidavara Vasasi Vartamana Kanchi Kalapa Parirambi Nidamba Bimbam. Synonyms: Guru, the two thighs; Suparna, of Garuda; Bhujayo, the two shoulders; Adhi, on; Sobhamanav, beautiful; Ojanidhi, the storehouse of all energy; Adasiga Kusuma, of the linseed flower; Bhavasav, like the luster; Vyalambi, extending down; Pida, yellow; Vara, exquisite; Vasasi, on the cloth; Vartamana, being; Kanchi Kalapa, by a girdle; Parirambhi, encircled; Nidamba Bimbam, his lotus hips. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Next, the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of Godhead's thighs, the storehouse of all energy. The Lord's thighs are whitish blue, like the luster of the linseed flower, and appear most graceful when the Lord is carried on the shoulders of Garuda. Also, the yogi should contemplate his rounded hips, which are encircled by a girdle that rests on the exquisite yellow silk cloth that extends down to his ankles. Purport. The personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all strength, and his strength rests on the thighs of his transcendental body. His whole body is full of opulences, all riches, all strength, all fame, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. The yogi is advised to meditate upon the transcendental form of the Lord, beginning from the soles of the feet and then gradually rising to the knees, to the thighs, and finally arriving at the face. The system of meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead begins from his feet. The descriptions of the transcendental form of the Lord is exactly represented in the Archa Vigraha, the statue in the temples. Generally, the lower part of the body of the statue of the Lord is covered with yellow silk. That is the Vaikuntha dress, or the dress the Lord wears in the spiritual sky. This cloth extends down to the Lord's ankles. Thus, since the yogi has so many transcendental objectives on which to meditate, there is no reason for his meditating on something imaginary, as is the practice of the so-called yogis whose objective is impersonal. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salagaya Chakshurunmilidam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stavidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadandigam Vandeham Sri Gurum Sri Udapadagamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunathanidam Tam Sajivam Sadhuidam Savadudam Parijana Sahidam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalidam Sri Vishakhanidamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarupascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Nityananda Udendur Vasudha Pranavallabha Janav Jeevidavadihi Krishna Prema Prada Prabho Padmavadi Sudha Sriman Sajidandara Purvajaha Bhavonmatta Jagatrada Rakta Gaura Kalevaraha Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Rishigeshindriyatmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Navurtatmane. Om Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimade Lokanath Swamini Ramine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Sarasada Devi Guruvani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Harihi Om Tatsat. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining today. Very auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam class, especially today is a solar eclipse. And there is nothing better than on this day that to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and to chant the holy name of the Lord. So in many part of the world, it's already been, the solar eclipse is going on. So here we have in the afternoon, so everybody can also focus and concentrate with that mood of devotion. So this chapter is titled as the Lord Kabila's instructions on executing devotional service. This is a very beautiful chapter, and this is that we can always remember this chapter in our mind from the beginning to end. How a devotee, how a yogi should meditate on the Supreme Lord. Essentially, in the initial section, Srila Kapila Devi is instructing to Mother Devahudi how one should meditate and worship on the Supreme Lord. Essentially, that this is similar to the the process of Ashtanga Siddhi, Ashtanga Yoga. 8 processes that how one can concentrate, how one can reach to that state of, as I mentioned that in the last time, that how one can come to the stage of Niruddha or the transcendental state. So this is the science of Krishna. This is the science of Krishna consciousness. It's all that everything that we control our mind, bring our mind to that stage of that we can always in that transcendental plane, in connection, in yoga, in union with that Supreme Lord. So this is in order to come to that stage, in order to reach to that stage, there are some preliminary stages. That's what it is that we have to follow the regulative principles, yama and niyama. Then we have to control our bodily activities and so that it is fit. And then, that's asanas. Then we control our breath, that's pranayama, so that we can focus our mind. The mind can be focused, mind, all the nashta prayeshu, abhadreshu, all that impurities can be eradicated when we have that very disciplined, very regular process of this breathing exercise of, so that way the entire body, the entire energy, the prana is actually, floated through the body so that we can focus our mind very attentively. So this is the whole purpose, bring our mind to that consciousness, that's why Srila Prabhupada, Krishna consciousness. So then what is needed? And then in order to bring to that, that's why, asana, pranayama, then pratyahara, then dharana, dhyana. So this is the stage where Srila Kapila Devi is giving us that transcendental knowledge of that, how one should meditate, dhyana, properly meditate. So all these processes and in the Bhakti Yoga process, acharyas are revealed or the scriptures are revealed is just to bring our mind to that point where we can very focus, attentively focus on the Supreme Lord. That's the dhyana, that's the pure dhyana, not without any deviations. So here in this section, actually, Srila Kapila Devi is revealing that how one can focus on the Supreme Lord. So very interestingly and very beautifully, Kapila Devi is revealing that one should start to meditate from the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So there are many scripture, many verses, many scriptures that just glorify the lotus feet of the Lord. and each anga of the Supreme Lord. In the Brahma Samhita, Brahma is even saying that Anganiyasya Sagalendriya Vridi Mandi Pashyandi Pandi Kalayandi Chiram Jagandi Ananda Chinmaya Sadhujwala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Anganiyasya Sagalendriya Vridi Mandi, Lord's Anga, Lord's each organs, each Angas of the Lord is as equal as completely powerful and potent as the Supreme Lord. Each Anga, everything, there is no difference between that. And everything, each Anga is dazzling and full of potency. Anganiyasya Sagalendriya Vridi Mandi, Sagala Indriya, Sagala Angas of it. Pashyandi Pandi Kalayandi Chiram Jagandi. It's complete, it's a complete full of potency. Ananda Chinmaya Sadujjala Vigrahasi. That means one can derive such a great pleasure. Ananda Chinmaya, even if you meditate on that one anga of the Supreme Lord, it's complete, it's full. And Brahma is even Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Similarly, Kapila Devi is also instructing the mother Devahudi the same the aspect of it, that Anganesyasya. So that's why Kapila Devi is mentioning to that one should meditate on the Supreme Lord from the lotus feet of the Lord. So it's a lotus. It says that Padhara Vinda. There is a beautiful Aravinda means lotus. Pada Aravinda. Pada means lotus feet or the feet, and that it's like the beauty of the exquisite beauty of the lotus. And it is, as is mentioned that many times, that's the best that we can compare the lotus feet of the Lord in this world. That's with Aravinda or the lotus. So, but Lord's feet, everything that is so beautiful, so exquisite, it's extremely beautiful. And then just by meditating on that Lord itself, that lotus feet itself, that one can attain the supreme. That's what is also in this chapter, that Kapila Devi is giving that instruction that how one should meditate from the to the Supreme Lord, and then what are the benefits one can derive out of it, and what are the benefits just by. And it is mentioned that even in the there is a in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we know that when Dhruva Maharaj was leaving the palace and going to the forest for for the penance, for the tapas, then Narada Dev came, and Narada Dev was also instructing the same to Dhruva Maharaj. The how the Kapila Dev is instructed. It's a beautiful section there. How each anga that Lord Narada Dev is instructing, Narada Dev is mentioning to Dhruva Maharaj that the lotus eyes and the lotus feet and the lotus anga, the hands and everything, and glorifying each anga, the Narada Dev. And then similarly, Dhruva Maharaj also followed that instruction, and it's mentioned that if one is meditated upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, there is no doubt that his all material inclinations and entanglements can be eradicated, and he can attain the abode of the Supreme Lord. This Narada Dev was speaking to Dhruva Maharaj like this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So similarly, Kapila Devi is instructing to Mother Devahudi that one should meditate upon the Supreme Lord from the lotus feet to the lotus face. That is why many times it's mentioned that Padadi Kesham. Padadi Kesham, there are, many, songs and many descriptions and glorifications that just by, like from the Padadi Kesham means from the Pada to the Kesha. Kesha means the lotus hair. And similarly, Keshadi Padam. And that's what is from the lotus face, lotus, that hair to the lotus feet of the Lord. So Padadi Kesham, one should meditate and see the Lord from the lotus feet to the lotus face, and again from the lotus face to the lotus feet of the Lord. And that is so beautiful, Padadi Kesham and Keshadibha. And many temples, especially in our place, and many temples in Guruvayur and many temples, this is the way that they are offering the worship to the Supreme Lord as well. That even if we offer the lamb, what we do, first we offer the lotus feet, then we come to the lotus navel, then we come to the lotus face of the Lord. This is the way that one should even worship the Supreme Lord. And from starting from the lotus feet of the to the lotus face, then comes to that lotus face to the lotus feet, that's Kesha, then it comes down, then goes around. There is beautifully that when the devotion matures, that one can see that each anga of the Lord is nothing but the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what is the vision. This is what is the meditation one has to have. So there are beautiful verses and descriptions of the Lord like this. Even Villumangala Thakur was giving this very beautiful, like this way that it says that Kamalar is Aravinda. Everything is mentioned about the Aravinda, lotus feet. Padharavindam. Padharavindam means the lotus feet. Then it says that the lotus hands, Kanaka, Kamalara. Then lotus face, Mukhara Vindam, right? And then this verse is mentioning Urura Vindam, Urura Aravindam. That means that the lotus thighs of the Lord. So everything is compare us with the lotus, and the beauty of the lotus is that that we can, that just especially that that's the best that we can compare with the angas of the Supreme Lord. So like this. So there are beautiful verses like that. Even we see that in scriptures, like as is mentioned that in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter, and the last verse itself says that one should always meditate the Supreme Lord in their heart, and that's the best yogi. So Kapila Devi is mentioning that the same, that how a yogi should meditate upon the Supreme Lord. As he says that, in the 6th chapter, 47th verse is mentioned that, right? Chanda Hrideshu, no, it says that Madgadendra Atmana Saddavan Bhajade Yomam Yogo Same Yukta Tado Madaha. It says that Yokinam Abhi Sarveshu. Yokinam Abhi Sarveshu Madgadendra Atmana Saddavan Bhajade Yoman Same Yukta Tamo Madaha. That yogi which always meditate, that keeps that me in their heart. In their heart, that's what is the best yogi, right? In the similarly in the 6th chapter, the Lord is revealing that one should go with this this meditate all this pranayama, ashtaya, pranayama, pratyahara, all this. But ultimately, that one who meditates me in his heart is the best yogi. Always keeps Sadhavan bhajade yoma, right? Yoginam abhi sarveshu mat gedendra atmana. One who is meditating me in his heart attentively and constantly, he is the best yogi. So, like that, many places it's mentioned that even it is mentioned into the Lord Krishna, the Supreme Lord also reveals this to Uddhava in the 11th canto and 15th chapter. There is a general history. It is mentioned that even if that one who does little bit of that, he can also attain a various kinds of siddhis like that. And in that chapter, it is mentioned that there are 18 siddhis, not even just the eight. Eight is actually the primary siddhi, but there are another 10 other siddhis, and there are many other siddhis one can attain. So, but the devotees are not so much of after for the siddhis. The devotee develops that love for the Supreme Lord. This is what it is revealing. This is what is Kapila Devi, that the devotee should meditate upon the Supreme Lord with that loving, nature. So there are beautiful verses like that. That in the Vishnu Sahasranam, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a mention that Shandakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishwadharam Gagana Sadrisham Mekavarnam Shubhangam Lakshmi Kandam Kamala Nayanam Yogi Hridhyana Gamya. See, this is the way that one should see the Lord. Every angas, every features of the Lord. Sachang, Lakshmi Kandam Kamala Nayanam, lotus eyes, Kamala Nayanam, Yogi Hridhyana Gamya. Always yogi, the devotee, meditate on the Lord. Vande Vishnum Bhavayagaram Sarva Lokaiganadam. Then there is Sashanga Chakram, Sakirida Kundalam, Sabida Vastram. So in this words, Kapila Devi is saying that the Lord wears that Pida Vastram. Pida Vastram means the yellowish garment. Sashanga Chakram, Sakirida Kundalam, Sapida Vastram, Sarasi Ruheshanam, Sahara Vachasala Gaustupasriyam, Namami Vishnum, Shirasa Chadrupa. This is the way that one yogi should meditate upon the Supreme Lord. In the beginning, the section that Kapila Devi is also mentioning that one should not meditate the Sarvanga of the Lord. Do not see that as a whole. Do not see the Lord as a whole, but rather that we should meditate on the Supreme Lord from the lotus feet onwards. So that's where it is revealing here so beautifully that in these words, that the yogi should fix his mind in meditation on the personality of Godhead thrice. So first, the lotus feet of the Lord, and is glorifying that. Kapila Devi glorifying that lotus feet itself is that washing the Ganges water is washing that lotus feet, and then that water is just by to receive the mercy Lord Shiva is holding on his head all the time. because of that which is touched by the lotus feet of the Lord. And then one should meditate on that. That Mother Lakshmi is always serving that lotus feet, always in the service of the Lord, right? On the Pada Sevanam. This is called Pada Sevanam. Pada Sevanam is considered as very, very, very beautiful. So we can explain so in detail about the Pada Sevana. Mother Lakshmi is always serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So it is mentioned that, dear devotees, that when we do the service like cleaning the temple, come to the temple and cooking up everything and doing the service at the temple, and this is all considered as the Pada Sevanam. That means we are serving the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is the way that one can always attain the Supreme Lord. So the Pada Sevanam, the lotus feet, that one, whatever the service which we do in the temple, in order to make it everything tidy and clean, this is also considered as the Pada Sevanam. Then after that, then Kapila Devi is instructing to Mother Devahudi that one should then raise slowly up to the thighs of the Lord. So here in this words, the Lord is, Kapila Devi is mentioning about the beauty and the strength of the thighs of the Lord. Thighs are so uru. Uru means Urur Aravinda. That means this is the thighs, the lotus thighs of the Lord. So it is mentioned that here Kapiladev mentioned that it holds all the strength of the transcendental body, and these thighs have all the strength, its potency and the strength. So Kapiladev again mentioning that how we can see that the beauty of that thighs, how the Lord is actually seated on the back of a Garuda. When a Lord is seated on the back of a Garuda, there is beautiful pictures. Many times there are beautiful pictures depicted out there. And when you have that vision that the Lord is seated on the Garuda, on the back of the Garuda, is both the thighs are actually so beautiful. And it is mentioned that it's so rounded in such a way that's so powerful. So I mean, Lord's another opulence is that Lord is full of strength, right? Full of strength. That's what is, with the power, potency, and the strength. So that all we can see and meditate and vision on that. The Lord's strength and his thighs and so beautiful, and that how the Lord is seated on the back of a Girida. That's what is that we should. And then when we Lord is seated on the back of a Girida, we can have the vision of that Lord's thighs. Then it is mentioned that the Lord's, the Nidamba. Nidamba means the buds, and it is beautifully decorated in such a way that it's Nidamba in Bimbam. Bimbam means that it's full rounded. It's so beautiful in such a that which is covered by this garments, this celestial garments, which is in yellowish color. So Lord is always wears that the yellowish color. Sometimes people ask this question: why this Lord is always wearing these yellowish garments in Goloka, in Vaikuntha? Because of Lord always also wanted, that's the nature of the Lord. Lord also wanted to that reminds that the color of Srimati Radharani. That's why Lord is always wears this garments of this yellowish garments. So this way that one can meditate upon the Supreme Lord. This is the way that from the lotus feet to the lotus face, and then the lotus, it goes gradually grows up, then thighs, and then the nidambas, then the navel, then the chest, then the necks, and the Lord, the hands, the lotus hands, and like this. And the Villamangalam Thakur was very beautifully put out a verse like this: Kararavinde Padharavindam Mukharavinde Viniveshayandam Vadatra Patrasya Pudasya Shayanam Balam Mukundam Manasa Smarami Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare He Natha Narayana Vasudeva Jihve Pivasa Murtam Tadeva Govinda Damodhara Madhavedi Govinda Damodhara Madhavedi. Villamangalam Thakur says that the same again: Kararavinde Padaravindam, that lotus hands and the lotus face, Mukharavinde Padaravinde Viniveshayandam, that meditating on that Supreme Lord's each anga like this, and Vadasya Patrasya Vinive, Mude Shayanam, Lord is lying on that like on a lotus leaf, or the banyan tree or banyan leaf like this. and Balam Mugundam Manasa Smarami. And this is the way that, dear devotees, that one should always meditate on the Supreme Lord, Lord's pastimes and Lord's beautiful angas, Lord's each. And then it says that, Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare, that Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna Govinda Hare Murare, He Nada Narayana Vasudeva, that Supreme Lord Narayana Vasudeva, that's beautiful forms. And Jikve Pibaswa, that the tongue of the devotee yoga, Jikve Pibaswa Murutam Tamdeva. I mean, just chant that. What one should chant with that? Govinda Damodara Madhavedi. One should take that the holy name of the Lord, Damodara, Govinda, Madhava, Damodara, Govinda, Damodara, Madhavedi. The devotees, this is the way that we can come to that, our transcendental plane, that our spiritual nature. And this is the way that Kapila Devi is instructing us and giving us, that one should always meditate upon the Supreme Lord, keeping the Lord in the heart, that Yoginam Abhi Sarveshu Madgadendra Atmana. And we should always have this vision, the lotus feet, the lotus, the thighs and the navel and the chest. And this is the way that always we can always worship in our heart in this way that we can always in union. That's called yoga, yogi. You're always in union with the Supreme Lord. So with this note, I would end here. Thank you so much for being there. It's very, very beautiful that to meditate on the Supreme Lord with this understanding. Hare Krishna. Let me stop here.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day ahead. And we'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Narsingho, Jai Narsingho, Jai Jai Narsingho, Praladesha, Jaya Padma Mukha, Padma Bringa, Mugravira, Mahavishnam, Jwalantam, Sarvatomukam, Narsingam, Bhishanam, Bhadram, Mityam, Mityam, Navamiham, Narsingha Bhagavana ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai. Yeah, an important day today. Yes, solar eclipse gives us the opportunity to depend more on the Supreme Lord and chant more His holy name. So ensure that we do more chanting if possible on this special day, and avoid directly looking at Surya Dev today. Yeah. Health-wise, it can affect eyes, so avoid directly looking at Surya Dev. Okay. Any other questions? Logistics-wise? Okay. We would like to offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas, Man Chakri Pataru, Chakri Pasan, Guru, Marka, Patitana, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Nama Namaha, Vaishnavinda ki Jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, ki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari.
Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Sir.
Sameshwar Prabhu.
Thank you,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.